Yeah, where'd you get the boba from?
Tito.
Tito.
I saw it online and then it marked and I was like,
Yeah. What's up, Jim Tews on the Tims and Jews.
this is the. What's this podcast about?
This podcast is called Why Aren't You More Famous?
Perfect.
I didn't give you the rundown.
I've seen clips.
Okay. It's but yeah, so it's it's good to have you on. You first came to my attention, I think, in the way of probably a lot of people my age, which was
75% of the people that watch my content.
dude. Because I was watching your special today because I was like, I gotta watch it before. It was great. And
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. But I did notice so many of the comments were.
It's 90% of them.
It's 90%. And so for the listener, there's a podcast called Cumtown, and on it, Nick Mullen, one of the hosts, did a bit called Cruisin Joe List, where he was doing a Joe List. So this is a real thing that happened, that he was doing a Joe List impression to say anyone to have sex with you.
We were at.
Let me hear your side of the story.
It's like, I actually listened to the bit because I'd never listened to it before. I was just like, I saw what was happening and I kind of a couple years ago, put together what was going on. And I was like, I don't know if I want anything to do with this. As much as I like those guys, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. So I'll just let it happen. And when I listened to the bit, I was like, yes, okay, confirmed. That is what happened. Because that's how I remembered it, was that we were at a festival in Cleveland, and Cumtown was booked as the podcast.
Yeah.
This was 2018 or something. And I've known Nick for a little while, just running around. We drove back from Boston together with Dan Soder once, and but we knew who each other was, and he was doing that Joe List impression to Stavros and Adam, and I was walking by, and he did the, saying that he was looking for me or whatever, and it made us laugh so hard. And then every time he saw me at the festival, that's what he would do, in the Joe List voice, and it's funny.
It is
certainly funny. And the whole bit's really funny. Joe gets the shittier end of it.
Yeah.
I've been super lucky because it's just been people that are like, hey, came here because of Cumtown and you were actually funny.
Yeah.
And I'm
Jim Tews, looking cute.
I'll take it, I guess. And then I also accidentally, this was not planned. Joe and I are friends, but we don't talk enough we don't check with each other's schedules. But we release our specials on the same day, and I had no idea that was going to happen.
Right. I noticed one of the comments was the first thing that comes up
is
Joe List special.
I see it in my analytics that they watch him, and then most of my traffic comes from somebody watching his special. So I had to text him and be like, hey, dude, thank you. I don't know how this is helping you, but appreciate the link. He's not, honestly, a perfectly good person to be connected to.
Yeah.
For,
great comic.
For a long time. I know. Yeah. But that's how people are watching it. I would hate to see the numbers if that didn't happen.
Yeah. What do you think they'd be? So what were the numbers? So what, how long have you been doing stand-up?
Oh my God. 23 years or something.
So you're 43.
I'm 43.
You started when you were 20?
I started, when I was 21.
Okay.
I will turn 44 this year. I started in March of 2003, because I was still in the Coast Guard, and I had been stationed in Cleveland, and I was coming up on the end of my enlistment, and I hated it, and I was just I need to go do something. And I was into stand-up mostly because of Insomniac, David Tell's
Yes.
little
Yeah.
Comedy Central show. And I tried it, and then I was like, this is awesome. And then I just continued to proceed and destroy every other aspect of my life for many years.
What made you join the Coast Guard?
Lack of better options, I guess. I was like I'm not from like a military family, but most of the guys in my family were in one branch or another for some period. And, I was not good in school. And, I'm from Allentown. It's like very blue collar. It's like, well, there's no like steel mill for you to work at.
Right, yeah.
And you're going to blow it if you go to college. So, pick a branch. And I did like 10 minutes of research. And I was like, Coast Guard sounds good. And then, because I didn't want to be in the Army. I didn't want to I have no desire to fight.
Yeah.
The Navy was like, that just didn't appeal to me to be at sea for that long. And then I had like a great uncle that was in the Coast Guard. And
great uncle as in like it was your parents' uncle? Or as in like he was just like your favorite uncle?
It was my mom's. It was my mom's.
Was he a good uncle though?
He was a good uncle.
Okay, yeah.
He was a good great uncle. But yeah, he was in the Coast Guard in like World War II.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that sounds fun. So yeah, I just enlisted in like my senior year, and then like spent the summer at home. And then in that fall of like 99, I went and off to boot camp. And I was on a ship for a while. And then I got stationed in Cleveland. And then 9/11 happened. And then it got a little more serious. And then I was like, oh, this isn't fun. I'm an adult. And then I did comedy, and now I'm absolutely not an adult.
What do you do in the Coast Guard? I feel like it's kind of like it's the Staten Island of military branches.
Well, it kind of is. But here's the thing: they've changed it since, but they were more discerning. Like you're at the test you take to get into the to gauge where you're at, like career wise for military stuff. Your ASVABs had to be higher to get into the Coast Guard to enlist.
ASVAB, what is that?
The ASVAB test. That's like the test you take to see like, are you like totally stupid? And are you good at engineering things, or like what are your strengths?
Yeah.
So it was like, it's a small branch. It's like primary thing is like maritime law enforcement, and I didn't appeal to me, but what more appealed to me was just like
the not fighting.
More humanitarian. There's a lot of like, marine science type stuff, like environmental things. It's different now under this administration. They've gone all like fucking weird. But I had a very boring job. I chose an admin job so I could go to college at night, and I just worked. I like super boring. I worked like as a personnel, like just handling records and human resources.
But on a boat?
Shit. No. I got stationed at a federal building.
Oh, okay. So, but you were on a boat.
Yeah, for like at a boot camp, I was on a boat for like 7 months. We went like up and down the East Coast. That was kind of cool, but not my thing ultimately.
Yeah.
Neither was working in an office.
Yeah.
But I've had to find that out the hard way.
Yeah. So when so you were like a big fan of comedy growing up?
Yeah, of course.
Who was when that was in like 80s and 90s?
Well, I watched like growing up, like because of my age, it was like there was like the comedy boom of the 80s, and like I was aware for like the tail end of that, like watching it on TV. It was like Comedy Central, MTV, VH1, they all had, like showcase style TV shows, HBO. So it was like a ton of it to watch. My dad was into it, and I watched it all on TV. I never thought about doing it until I was like, like old enough to go into bars, and then David Tell's show was like popular. And he made it look like the coolest thing you could do.
What was that? Because I think that was like a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
So what was Insomniac?
Insomniac was, I mean, you know who David Tell is.
Of course I know who David Tell is. Yeah, yeah.
So like before he became like, he was still kind of like a comics comic.
Yeah.
I mean, he was successful by all measures, but before he did like everything that he's done now, it was like he was just like a road comic. He was like headlining clubs all over the place, and the show followed him to those cities. And the premise was like, I work at comedy clubs. I hang out with people who are up late at night. So the show would start with him. You know, he would always joke about how he bombed, you know, doing this club show or whatever, whatever city he was in, and then he would leave the club, and then they would go to like. One, he actually did an episode with the Coast Guard. I think it was in Baltimore or something. But he would go to, you know, people who worked at night and follow them around and like see what their life was like, you know, at night. Hence the name
Insomniac. Yeah. Wow, that's because that was on Comedy Central.
Yeah,
because all those old Comedy Central shows, they're like nearly impossible to find now at a time where like with the internet, it's like supposedly we have like access to everything.
It's a bummer.
But then weirdly, some things have just kind of been like scrubbed from the internet. Yeah, almost.
Yeah, because Comedy Central's changed hands so much, and so has their content. So, but it is a shame. There's like, to me, it's like there's no reason you shouldn't be able to watch like. I think you can watch a lot of the old Comedy Central presents, but like all the series shows like Insomniac. I forget what else was kind of like all like Stella, like
that was like Stella was like the
Michael Ian Black.
Yeah, you can't find that anywhere. A lot of, I mean, I know some of the stuff like used to be on Netflix, like Important Things, like the Dimitri Martin.
Oh right, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, and it's like it's all stuff that kind of, I don't know. It's unfortunate. I hope that I guess some of it is on like Paramount Plus, but I hope some streaming service picks all of that up. You know, it's weird. And then a lot of the specials too are pretty hard to find, unless there's like albums of them. They're
right.
Yeah. So you started in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
It was. I have nothing to compare it to. I guess it was like normal. Like there was enough of a scene there. You had 2 main clubs in Cleveland proper, and then it was Hilarities and the Improv, and then you had like smaller clubs like outside in the suburbs, and it was very much like back in the like on the tail end of that like boom thing where it was like franchises like Improvs and Funny Bones and shit like that. So. And then there was like open mics at bars, just like there are now, you know, and bar shows that like paid. So you could kind of like try and get good at the open mics, and then you would go audition for the weekly amateur night that was or monthly amateur night that was at the Improv. And they would do like, you'd audition during the day. So you'd go on Monday at noon. And do like 3 minutes in the empty comedy club with like a bunch of other weirdos that had nothing to do on a Monday at noon. And you'd audition for the booker, and then you get on the amateur night, and then like keep doing that. Kept finding shit to do. Kept like, you know, Cleveland is like kind of central, so there was always like some weird bar show you could go do, but they weren't like. It's not like bar shows now, which are like. Don't tells.
Yeah, you know?
It was like a lot of times it was more of an ambush kind of show where you're like, hey, can you turn the Cavs game off? Because we're about to start the show. The upside is, for whatever reason, you'd make like $100.
Yeah, I started in Vermont, and it was a similar thing minus the sports. Because there's just no sports there. Yeah. That's... So, and then how long were you doing stand-up in Cleveland before you moved here?
Well, I did it. I started and then got out of the Coast Guard. Like,
so you started while you're in the Coast Guard?
I started while I was in.
Okay.
And I got out like almost a year later, and then I moved back to Allentown for a while just to like save money.
Yeah.
And I lived in my mom's basement, and I would go do open mics in Philly because that was the closest big city. So then I got to kind of see like, oh, what's another city like? And that was cool. I met, a lot of cool people there that are still active and successful.
Anybody notable?
Derek Gaines.
Oh, he's funny.
Joe DeRosa. Forget who else I used to see. Richie Redding.
I always forget Joe DeRosa's from Philly.
Yeah. Like, and then there was this like weird open mic called the Laugh House. It was hosted by the legendary Wid, who was a prop comic. He didn't do props usually when he was hosting that, but like gave me a chance to figure out another scene. I spent like a year there, almost a year in Allentown, like doing gigs like that, and every once in a while doing some weird thing in New Jersey or whatever. Moved back to Cleveland, and that's when I really like got serious about it. And by get serious, I mean enrolled in college, took out a bunch of loans, and focused on comedy. And then
that's kind of what I did when I was in college. Yeah. But wait, was Kevin Hart in Philly when you were there, or was that
I think he was like he was like out.
He had already left.
Yeah, pretty sure. I don't ever remember seeing him drop in.
I guess what year was that?
It would have been 2000, or I'm sorry, 2004.
Oh yeah, I feel like because he was in 40-Year-Old Virgin, which I think like came out around that time. So I guess he was already like in LA and like kind of on his way to being a star.
Yeah.
That's so. Yeah. What did you study in college?
Film.
Me too.
Yeah. I went to like community college for advertising design, and then got out and went to a 4-year school to Cleveland State.
Okay.
It was like it was fine. It got the job done. I got to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. In that time, like in Cleveland, it was like there was a good scene and a good pocket of people that I still do stuff with today. Like that's how and why I shot my special in Cleveland, because that's where a lot of my base of people who like I like to work with is still there. But yeah, it was a good place to start, and then and really like figured my shit out. And I ended up doing like Boston Comedy Festival and like other stuff in Philly. There was all kinds of like, it's just like it is now. It's just everything just kind of changes names and changes position. But it was, there were contests, there were like clubs you could try and hit, and the whole time you're just like trying to make ends meet and trying not to do the gigs you don't want to do, and it's all the same. And then I finally like finished college, and then I was like, I've been doing this like 10 years now, so I'm gonna go to New York or LA. And I chose New York because it was closer to my family, and it always appealed to me more.
Yeah. Well, and when did you start doing like animation stuff? Was that like when you were in school?
Kind of, but it was like not easy to do. It was animation's like really boring sometimes, and it used to be worse because you didn't have like the technology to like kind of take out some of the tedium. So I did, because I mean, while I was in school, I had already learned how to like edit video from my skateboarding background. I was like a little bit ahead of the game with some stuff. And I tried animation, but it was like too much. And I was like, I can't, I'm not built for this. So I put it aside, and then I started it during the pandemic because, like we were basically like stuck inside. Yeah. That's when I got like into it. But there was some software called Adobe Character Animator, which kind of like you could use your webcam and it analyzed the voice audio to make the mouth shapes change, which is like for animating a character, that's like half the.
Yeah, that sounds like one of the hardest parts. And that's the part where I feel like as a kid, like watching animation, which is like all you watch as a child, like that is always the thing that's the craziest. It's just like, okay, somebody drew this, but it's moving, it's talking. Like, what were you into as a child? Because I feel like I got like a little bit of insight into that from your special. Saw the picture of you with the saxophone.
Yeah.
I played saxophone as well. Were you
Nice.
How were you at saxophone?
I was all right. It's one of those things, like, if I had buckled down and focused, I probably would have been pretty good.
Yeah.
As with most things, like, I like lose interest. I don't lose interest, but I switch interests.
Yeah.
A lot. I bounce around. I was a fat weirdo for most of my childhood and adulthood. So I was into, music a lot. I was very into skateboarding, but was never good at it. But that's when I got into like photography and filming skating, which led me to learn how to edit video, and so it all kind of led to the right place, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like pretty typical like suburban 90s thing. Playing guitar, skateboarding, listening to Green Day. and I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had like I was not like exceptional in any way. I was terrible in school. I was in the gifted program, but I got kicked out.
Oh, really?
10th grade. Yeah.
That's I'm just thinking that's so cool that you were like in high school and like Green Day was like really cool. That's because I was like a big fan of Green Day, but they like, they made American Idiot when I was like in like elementary school.
Right,
and that was already like tail end of their prime. So it's like I'm just like, damn, that's cool. What other music were you into?
I was big into Weezer.
Yeah. Another one where I'm like, I caught him when they
you got the end. Like I feel bad.
Now they're like a cover band.
Basically, I still like them for what they are. Like, cool. We're all grown up now, I guess. So whatever. But yeah, Weezer was a huge one. There's just that cluster of bands that were like in the 90s when it was like alternative rock, and everything that I watched on MTV was like my whole world. Bush, Nirvana, No Doubt. Like, I got into ska, of course, because I played the saxophone.
Yeah.
So I listened to like a lot of Specials and Voodoo Glow Skulls and like shit like that. Like, I don't know. I guess it felt typical to me because that's all I knew. And this is like pre-internet. So your understanding of like what the kids are doing in California was limited to a magazine.
Yeah.
Which makes me sound like ancient, but it is kind of funny to be like, oh, you know exactly what people in Ohio are doing if you're 13 now because you've seen somebody.
Yeah.
You get a sense of like what's happening elsewhere in real time.
Yeah, and I was sort of like that when I was like growing up. That was the beginning of that. Of like that, like I remember.
How old are you?
I'm 28. I'll be 29 in a week. Like, so it's like, yeah. So when I was growing, it was like the beginning of like what the like rappers I listened to was like considered like the blog era. Because it was like when music blogs were like really and people were just starting to be able to just like put their stuff online.
Yeah.
Like even like Priest, and then SoundCloud came out, and so it was just like where like it was post the like torrenting era.
Yeah.
Even like I remember in like elementary school being on like LimeWire and stuff, and it was the funniest thing. I actually was reminded of this in your special because your dog is a Pekingese, and so on LimeWire, did you use LimeWire?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I remember you would like search an artist, and then it would give you. And I was really into Weird Al, but so any song parody, even if it had no connection to Weird Al, it was labeled as Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
And there was one that he had a parody of I Want It That Way called eBay. Mm-hmm. And there was a different parody, not by Weird Al, but labeled as Weird Al on LimeWire, called Which Backstreet Boy is Gay? And I just remember there's a line in it where his dog is a Pekingese. And so it was just like just hearing all these songs and just being Like, or like anything that sounded a little bit like any, so much stuff that I was like, that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and it was not.
No.
Like,
I remember that because I was like in high school.
yeah.
But I remember I'm a fan of the band Pavement.
Yeah.
I've ever heard of Pavement.
I have heard of Pavement.
So
yeah.
I didn't know, like I didn't have like older siblings or other people to like show me cool music. I was pretty much, with my other peers that were also like either oldest child or.
Do you have younger
children.
siblings?
I have 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
They're half sisters.
Yeah.
They're
Because
like
I had
closer to your age.
I had an older brother, so he was the one, he like introduced me to a lot of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I got on LimeWire. I was looking for Weezer, and it was a bunch of Pavement songs. But the thing said in the file name, like parentheses, like Weezer,
Yeah.
or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, let's see what this is. Probably it could have been a virus that destroyed my laptop, but it was Pavement, and I'm like, who's this band? And then I had to like find out, like, hey, has anybody ever heard of this band called Pavement? And then one cool like 11th grader was like, yeah.
That's so much. God, there is something cool about like how accessible all information is now, but there is something just like so much cooler about having to like ask, or like now you could be like, you see like literally I'll be like, if I hadn't heard of Pavement, and I'd be like, all right, let me Google Pavement. Oh, okay, now I know everything about Pavement. Like without hearing any of their music. And
yeah, you know what they look like.
Yeah.
You know what they sound like. You know their whole discography. It was like years until I knew what Pavement looked like.
Yeah.
It's not even like, there's even been like podcasts where I'm like, recently, and people that I listen to on NPR, I'm like, I don't know what any of these people look like. I never want to know. I miss that feeling of having no idea what somebody looks like.
Oh, the craziest thing. I've had that a few times with people on podcasts and then now everything is a podcast is also a video. And where I usually just listen to it, but sometimes I'll watch the video and be like, that's what that guy looks like?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
That is not at all what I was picturing.
No, I don't.
How do you feel like you look how you sound?
Tough to tell. I don't know. I never know what people's estimation of me is. It's kind of funny to see like comments on like Reddit and stuff where where it's not just guys calling me cute.
Yeah.
They're like one that posted yesterday was just like, love this bit, super good timing. It was like the drug addict Woody Allen costume works.
Oh, I
too.
saw that post.
And I'm like, what? Drug addict.
I think you just look like Goy Woody Allen. That's what it is. You just look like Woody Allen minus the Jew.
And like people are like, oh, love the Hunter S. Thompson vibe. And I'm like, what is happening? Hunter S. Thompson doesn't look anything like this. The only thing I can figure is I buy my glasses from this place called Zenny Optical, and it's just like a weird like Chinese company, and I have ones that like darken in the sun, and when they get old, they start to turn.
Is that
yellow.
what you're wearing in the special?
In the special,
yeah,
I'm wearing them, and I didn't. It's only because I ordered these.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need new glasses for the special so they're not like half tinted, and they didn't show up on time. So I had to grab an old pair, and I'm like, this is fine. And then I'm the one who like color corrected my special. Yeah. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like, there's no way to like remove this. And I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to look like I'm wearing like sort of sunglasses. And a bunch of people are like, Hunter S. Thompson, huh?
I think it's the glasses and you have your hair is a little bit longer in the special. Yeah. So I think it's that too. I do kind of see it. I think there's
call me Hunter S. Thompson all you want. That's a way cooler.
I love your
Woody Allen.
Your Nicolas Cage bit is great.
Thank you.
Where it's him in Con Air and then the picture of Aaron Rodgers. That's crazy. That is actually when did you make that connection?
I like that picture was going around when he was like super anti-vax and like being real vocal about it, and then that picture came out and I just remember like joking with friends about it. I go, he looks like Nicolas Cage in Con Air. So then when I put that bit together, I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw this in here to, you know, to mix up like the slideshow part of it, because that's another part of doing something with a slideshow is you don't want to just be like presenting pictures. You want to use it to give it some sort of like twist and turn or whatever.
So what made you decide to do the slideshow for the special?
Just boredom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have no like, we know I'm on this podcast that's called
Why Aren't You More Famous?
Right. So I'm not
the
famous.
podcast. It's not even a famous enough podcast for people to know the name.
Well, this is where I live. This is where I dwell.
Yeah.
This is where I excel. But I'm like, nobody knows me. Not enough people know me to expect anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some freedom to kind of like do whatever I want, because nobody's gonna be like, I like his old stuff better. It's like, you haven't heard my old stuff. Like,
right.
please go back.
Yeah.
Go get tired of it. But I'm like, you know, I get bored. I was also just like, let me set myself apart from the other like 40-year-old straight white guys putting stand-up specials on YouTube. And I like to draw, and I'm a visual person, so I don't know. It seemed I'm gonna keep doing it that way. I might not draw specific attention to it like I did with this one, but it's gonna be an element that I continue to use.
Yeah. So do you want to be famous?
I never wanted to be famous. The only reason I would pursue fame in that way is just because it makes it so much easier to do other shit that you want to do.
Yeah.
Which is the really tough part. Because it's like, you know, I write and I animate and I do that stuff. And it's like, I think I do a good job at those things. And if I were famous for one other thing, it would make people pay attention to my abilities in the other areas.
Yeah.
You know, if I was famous, or more notable or whatever, more people would read a script I wrote,
right?
Or, you know, be on board to help me, you know, do something with a group of friends that I want to put together, whatever. That's the only reason I would want to be famous. But as far as like having to live like that, I don't really like that level of attention. I've seen it through other people's eyes, and it's not always like awesome.
Yeah. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Probably Chris Rock.
What was that? What was that like? Was
fun.
that at the Cellar?
I met him at the Cellar, and then him and Todd Barry were hanging out, and I was hanging out with Todd, and we all had dinner. I think that's happened once or twice now.
Wait,
but it's very
Mike Kaplan, when he was on the podcast, I think also told me a story about meeting Chris Rock with Todd.
Yeah. Probably. Well, Todd's good in that way that like he's not worried that like if Chris Rock invites him to dinner and you happen to be with him, he's not going to tell you to go home.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, "Come on. Like you're involved or whatever, you know, like you're here." And it's like, which is kind of cool, you know, to like get to just sit down like a normal person outside of a comedy club. I mean, he knew I was a comic, but
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I say that I'm trying to think. He's probably the most famous. Yeah, I would say.
That's
so.
What was that? What was he like?
He was Chris Rock.
That's
he's like funny. He talks about. So the hard part, not hard part, but the weird part is when he's like, "Oh, what are you up to next week?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm flying to Monaco for the F1 or whatever.
Yeah,
and I'm taking my daughter." And you're like, "Oh, cool. I'm going to Wilkes-Barre." And it's like, and he's not talking down.
No, that's just
way.
what he's doing.
That's what he's doing. And you're like, you know, all right, cool. That sounds cool, man.
Yeah,
you do that a lot. Like,
yes. That's when hearing that shit is like, okay, maybe it would be nice to be famous to get to
right.
Casually go to Monaco.
He was telling Todd about going on like David Geffen's boat, and Larry David was there, on his yacht or whatever. and I was trying to just be a listener.
Yeah.
But I just was like, what's Larry David like on a boat?
Yeah.
And it's like exactly how you think he'd
Yeah.
be, just kind of not into it.
That's what you want. That's cool. Todd, I was on a show with him recently, and I'd never met him before, but I was like a fan of his comedy, and it was just like a bar show with like 5 people in the audience, and it was so funny. During his set, he's like, I'm famous. Like, you guys have never heard of me, but I'm actually famous.
Yeah. Yeah, Todd likes to be famous.
Yeah. One of my favorite, have you seen the episode of Louie that's like fully centered around him?
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I think that was my introduction to Todd Barry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'd like heard of him before, but that was probably when I was like in high school or college watching that. And then I was like, that episode, it's so good.
He was in the kind of roster of comics that I saw a lot of.
Yeah.
As far as like being on Comedy Central, like him and Gaffigan,
Yeah.
Maria Bamford. I remember I had like a copy of Medium Energy, Todd's album that I'd listen to all the time. I don't tell him that I started out as a fan. I don't give him that.
Who when you moved here, like who were the people you like sort of came up with in New York, and what was it like when you first moved here?
It was.
And what year was that?
That was like 2010, 2011 or something. I moved here, and then like I had been auditioning for Montreal from Cleveland for a couple of years. And then I auditioned in New York twice, the second time being the year I moved here, and then I got it that year. So it was kind of nice. Like I was already 30, which sucked because it's like you aren't old, but you're also not young.
Yeah, I mean that's how I'm being almost like being 29. You know.
Yeah,
like I'm like that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like I'm a little bit tired, but also I gotta pay my dues and all that stuff. And I knew a lot of people from the road, but like I'm talking like Ted Alexandro and like John Fish and Jim Gaffigan, like people that I would come through Hilarities or whatever. I'm trying to think of others, but I would meet them in Cleveland, and then they were here, and it was like, okay, but we're at different. They're doing their thing.
Yeah,
like, it's hard. You can't like jump in. So then it's like, even as nice as everybody was, but then you find your own crew, and it was like early Creek in the Cave.
Yeah,
days for me. Were people that I like spent a lot of time with was like the Lucas brothers, like Adam Conover was there a lot. Kevin Barnett, R.I.P. I'm trying to think of who else I was just around so much that would be like my class.
Yeah.
But I don't really know. I mean, I just feel like it's been, I'm like, that feels like it was yesterday, but also like 50 years ago. And then there was like a weird divide from before the pandemic to now. But yeah, it was, I don't even know how you would, like, can you, like Hannibal was there. Like it was a lot of the, Clark Jones and Kenny DeForest and Will Miles, like the people that took over Hannibal's show. I was like coming as Hannibal, and a lot of those people were like moving to LA or doing other things. So I don't know. I never felt like I had an official class, but yeah, like I'm trying to, I did Montreal with Dan Soder. He was on my show. Chris Laker was on my show. I don't know if you know Chris Laker. Yeah. Lil Rel.
Wow.
Lil Rel was on.
Did he live here?
New Faces Unwrapped. No, he was in L.A. I was just thinking of who I did Montreal with.
Were you were wrapped or unwrapped?
Unwrapped.
So who else was it? So you said Lil Rel. Wow, that's crazy to imagine. Lil Rel unwrapped. Like he's
and he killed.
Of course he
already
did. Yeah.
Like he had already been like notoriously incredibly funny.
And Dan Soder, wow,
and Soder too, yeah. Yeah, that was yeah, who it's like it also sucks like okay, I just named 2 dead people and and then like other people that I don't even know what they're up to now.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, like a bunch of people moved to LA, like a lot of people stay here or go their separate ways, and then the pandemic like literally like a lot of people just stopped doing stuff.
Yeah.
Or they moved to, you know, back to wherever. So I don't know what my class is. That was a real roundabout answer.
Who was the
who
first
I came up with.
Who was the first person that you were with that you remember like them like getting just insane success and like seeing like that shift of like you're seeing this person at open mics and then suddenly you're not and they're like they've moved above.
That's a good question. I don't know that there was like I mean, it wouldn't have been. I would say the Lucas brothers, kind of, but they didn't like they. I would still like see them around. It wasn't like that crazy.
Well, I guess
And
that is how
like,
it is because there's people that I'd certainly know now that like have achieved some stuff and are like sort of like on their way up, but you know, I'm still seeing them around a lot. Yeah,
and then there was like Mark Normand. But his ascent was a little more like steady.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that there was like
there were no like sort of overnight successes.
Not that it's like sticking out in my head at this point, but back then it was like the big thing was like getting on like one of the late night shows, like Letterman at the time still.
I guess it was a little bit different because now, I mean, the internet changed everything where like I think where overnight success, you know, used to mean 10 years and then now you're famous, but like now it can literally be overnight. Like literally you have one video that gets 6 million views and then you're like, now you're famous. Like,
yeah. And you have I feel like the difference is like when you get viral success, you have repeated access to that. Theoretically, repeated access to that group of people. If you, accumulate 3 million followers in 3 months, theoretically, you have access to those 3 million people to sell them things to get them to come to a show. Whereas if you did Fallon, however many people, you know, still like in the millions saw you that night, but the sets didn't used to go online even. It was like, so then you would try to do it again, or you try to do another show, or you get better shows in New York, and then you know.
Have you done late night?
No, I never did. I've never done late night. I've submitted so many times and like gotten feedback, like, oh, we like this clip, let's tweak this, tweak that, and then it just like something falls off.
Yeah.
And like, so and now it's like, you know, hey, who's still doing it?
Yeah.
Now they're. I really showed them.
What?
No, I'm still. I don't like. I'm not like bitter about it, but I have no problem admitting that it bums me out that I never got to experience that. I did Last Comic Standing, which is about the closest I got.
And who was in your class for that?
Normand was on that season. I forget who won that season. I think it was like Carlos Miller. Or one of the dudes from 95 South.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Comedian group that's like super popular online. Yeah, he was on it. Joe Zimmerman was on it. Yeah, I don't remember who won. There's a lot of LA guys that. Oh, Kurt Metzger was there too. There's, like I said, like people are popping into my head. I'm like, there's no way you know this person. Like they're doing some other thing now, and I don't know. It was a cool experience, but you know. Oh, Joe Mackey. That's another.
Oh, you were on that season?
Yeah.
That's the one season that I watched.
I think it was season 8.
That's I've only watched one season of Last Comic Standing.
Yeah.
It was that because I specifically remember Joe Mackey.
I'm pretty sure it was Mackey. He might have been the year after. It was the year that, I think it was season 8. It was the year that Ben Kronberg, like there was like a big deal that he told off Roseanne or something.
I remember Roseanne was one of the judges. Yeah.
Okay, so then it would have been that season.
Yeah, and I think Rodman won.
Rodman,
that's who won. And Mackie, I think, came in second.
Okay,
Yeah, and it was Lachlan Patterson.
Yeah, Lachlan Patterson. Yeah, I'm picturing. I
think Alingon Mitra was on it.
I think he might have been on it that year. Louis J. Gomez was in the group. Adrian Iapolucci. I think Lisa Traeger might have been there. Yeah, I don't remember.
Wow.
It was like they also like had us kind of split up into smaller groups, like subgroups, taping blocks or whatever. It was a cool experience that I would do again, and I would highly recommend anybody who has the opportunity to do it. But it was also a very eye-opening thing where I was like, this doesn't work with my personality.
Yeah.
Which like kind of sucked to realize when they're like, they would literally like quarantine you in this room and there'd be like 3 roving cameramen while you're like sitting, I'm like sitting there like talking to another comic, like I'm talking to you right now, and then there would just be a camera here. And some comics who are good at that sort of thing would know, like, turn it on, talk to the camera, get the screen time. And I'm like, I'm like getting out of the way. And I'm like, this isn't like, I like the stand-up part of it. And I like talking to other comics and being around this, but I don't like that, like, the ham part of it. And that works really well for some people.
Well, I think Joe Mackey was so good on that shit because I don't know him. I think I met him like once, but he's such a character and like such an odd guy that it's like you can't not enjoy watching. And he's great. He's a great stand-up.
Odd guy.
But
I mean, not in a. But what you're seeing is how he talks
that's
to
him.
you.
Yeah.
Off stage.
I remember he had. I think it was a Fallon set where he just comes. He's just holding like a cup of water, like. In his own, like he just forgot to put it down, and instead of like putting it on the, he's just holding it during the whole set. What's that guy up to? I haven't seen that.
He's still
he's still around.
Yeah.
Did he go like right wing?
I think he was already kind of conservative.
He was already kind of conservative.
Yeah. And he just leaned into it.
Metzger too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's weird. That's been a weird thing to see.
You're telling me, buddy.
Yeah.
There's people that are like, I've had conversations with you. Like, what?
What do you make of all that? Because you've been doing comedy for a while.
I'm just. Why didn't I think to make that hard right turn? Like how much I just lost out completely. Yeah. Just sticking to my initial, liberal thoughts. It's weird because it's like we all have different personalities. We've all maybe been that way to some degree. So that's fine. Like I think if you want to be the guy who goes on, Fox News, if that's what you were going to do anyway, that's fine. It's only weird to me when it's like, you weren't like this at all. You went and in this direction and it started to work. So you went further in that direction. That's when it gets weird where I'm just like, you dug yourself a really bad hole because you're like, then you can't not be that.
Right. And then it's like, well, then that kind of feels like, well, you have no beliefs.
No, that's the other thing too. And I don't even like comics can be comics and be kind of like waffly if they want. That's fine. If your whole thing is, I'm just trying to be funny. It's like, but eventually like it's just the kind of the world we're living in now. It's also not fair to, maybe as audience members to be like, I'm going to funnel you into this direction. But the other thing is like, when you start taking steps to like, have, Trump or somebody on your podcast, it's like, you've made a pretty hard stance. I think you've gone in a pretty clear direction.
That feels like a place where I feel like as, and all these people that have had Trump on their part, they're not people that I've ever met. Maybe you know them, or at least have seen them around.
I've met
but
Tony, like he bombed on my UCB show.
That's great to hear. I love hearing that he bombed.
And I didn't know who he was. I knew of him, And I was like, oh, and I would had a show at UCB, and we would get people that would come and visit from LA, and and it would, I always like try to set them up nice, just see what they do. I'm always like I'm not judging. And he was just really awkward, and then he just kind of ate shit trying to be like an edgelord. And I was like, okay, you're exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
And now it's become abundantly clear. I've never met like Theo or
what about Schultz?
Schultz I met. I opened for him in Philly. Like we just got paired together, and he was like doing well. And
what year was this?
This would have been 18 or 19.
Okay, so this was sort of like right when he was starting to like pop online.
I'm pretty sure he sold out Helium. And his crowd was like fine.
Yeah.
But they weren't into me, which, it was like I know like when everyone in the audience in their head is going, nerd.
Yes.
And that was the feeling I got. And it was fine. He was fine to me. I'll give him that. He killed. But I was just like, something's like off here. Like he feels mean. Where you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why are you like? Why do I feel like you go like this a lot? And I don't know what it is. And then as things played out the way they did with his podcast and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, so again, I was right. I let it go, and obviously, whatever you're doing is fucking working.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm not gonna say shit about it, but yeah, it was just stuff like that where it's like, it's hard to argue against somebody when they have success and an audience, because then the thing is like, well, either you're jealous or like you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And it's like, well, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and he's somebody that I was a fan of when he first like came out online, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. He's just putting out stuff, and like he's a good joke writer. And then it felt like he really like leaned into the edgelord stuff. Yeah. And then it was just like all his have to be about some like edgy topic.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, that became,
and there's a real market for that.
Right. And I do understand, because I saw it with like Opie and Anthony. Mm-hmm. Like when I was starting out, that show was huge. That was what every podcast and all that shit is now.
Yeah.
I listened to it. I enjoyed it. I liked when they would have comics on. I liked Norton a lot. Like I was a part of that as a listener and a young comic, but then I started to hit a point where I was just like, this is starting to suck. This is starting to get weird. Like I couldn't put my finger on it. I just assumed like, oh, I'm outgrowing this.
Yeah, well, you know what is kind of like with like the like edgy comedy stuff. It's kind of like if you're like watching too much porn, and then you're like, I can't just watch like normal sex. It has to get like weirder and weirder and kinkier. It's kind of like that, where it's like you start with like one like kind of like racy joke, and then it's like, well, I guess I have to like only make trans jokes now. Like it's just you have to keep on pushing the envelope.
Yeah, and I always think like, it's comic things. We're not towing the line, but walking up to the line and crossing over, and it's like, well, why is the thing that's on the other side of that line always like overt racism, homophobia, misogyny? Like, why do we have to get that close to the shittiest opinion?
Well, and then what frustrates me so much is that you see. And I think Anthony Jeselnik has like such a good view on it, because he's one of the few people that is good at towing the line. Like he knows how to make jokes about any subject and like be funny with it. And you can see that it feels like all of these, the edgelord comics, that they are just like, well, if you're not laughing, it's because you're offended. And there's no possible way that I just didn't write a good joke or deliver it well.
No, that's very accurate. It is like, it's an easy out to be like, well, I didn't get laughs because I was offensive.
Yeah.
And that's just who I am. And you're like, well, I don't know if it was 100% that.
Right.
Some of it's your delivery and writing ability too.
Right. I remember I was watching Tim Dillon special with my cousins, and my one cousin, big fan of him. The other one, he was like, I don't really like it. It's not for me. And he's like, my other cousin's like, oh, you're like offended by it? He's like, no, I just prefer other stand up. Like like it's like that's the only reason you can dislike comedy.
Right. That's the position that they've put themselves in, kind of. Tim Dillon's another one where I was just like, I knew it was in there the whole time.
Right.
But I was also like, with him, seeing him do open mics and like talk about ice cream and shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this guy's really funny.
He is really funny.
He's insanely funny.
Yeah, and Adam Amawala told me like that he was like good friends with him for a while.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it's weird to see that. I don't know. I guess that kind of thing has always like existed of people like getting successful and like losing morals. But I feel like it's just more. Maybe it's just more visible now. I think because of the internet, because of the current administration.
Well, it's a thing that I don't think existed in the same way when I started, which is, it's the building an audience part, which you used to do. That wasn't a goal you had always. Is like, I remember people doing like email sign up sheets and things like that pretty early on, but it takes so much more. It has so much more value now, and it's done in such a different way that it's kind of detrimental. Because, like you said, you have to keep like going further and further, and then you also are kind of like collecting audience members in this weird way. And if they feel like turning on you and unsubscribing from your Patreon or unfollowing you and stuff like that, it's like a direct hit to your livelihood.
Yeah.
Like one piece at a time. So then you have people going the opposite direction to be like, I'm going to keep you guys on board. And I think that's also why you see like a lot of podcasters and stuff now kind of being like, this Trump guy's, he's fucking crazy. Because it's like, yeah, now you know, if you kept going in the other direction, you're smart enough to know that the ship is starting to sink. And people are starting to go, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So like now, if you stayed that route, you'd lose audience members just by virtue of the fact that they're all going to die from measles. But, yeah. So it's a different way of building and maintaining an audience now than it was before. And it requires, I think, comics and podcasters or whatever to act a different way to keep that coming.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm so glad I don't have an audience.
So what was your experience at Montreal like with New Faces?
Oh, that was like super stressful. I like, it was one of those things where you had like this idea in your head of like how cool it's going to be. And then the reality of it was I had like just moved here. I had like $200 in my bank account, I think. I was like blogging for some like weird men's humor site and making like $1,000 a month.
And that site is now Breitbart.
Yeah. It was called the Daily Stormer, I think.
That's what it was called?
No.
Is that like a
that's like a super alt-right.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it was called Holy Taco. And
yeah, so that doesn't exist anymore.
No, and it was like, it was like cracked.com.
Yeah.
In that vein. It was fine. It was a fun way to make a couple bucks, but I had like no money. I couldn't afford a plane ticket to Montreal. I probably could have asked my parents, but it did not occur to me because I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up like that. I was like out of the house so quick. So I ended up borrowing money from a friend I went to high school with. I mean, we're still friends. He lives in Long Beach, but I borrowed money to buy a bus ticket to take the bus to Montreal. And then I was on unrepped, and so they didn't pay for anything. No, you got like a hotel discount. You got a buddy pass, so you get somebody else into all the shows. So I invited my friend Mike from Cleveland. I was like, hey, if you can get yourself to Montreal, I'll give you my buddy pass and we'll split the hotel with me. And then you go to any show you want, you know? Because I also had friends in New York, but I wasn't tight enough to be like, I wasn't quite in enough to be like, I need a place to stay. Can I like split a hotel with somebody? So my friend Mike did that. And then on my way up there, I got stopped at the border and held over because they just started questioning me. Because my passport was new. And when they started asking me, like, how much money do you have in your bank account? What are you doing in Montreal? And I'm like, oh, it's a comedy festival. They're like, are you getting paid? I'm like, no, I'm not getting paid. And they're like, what are you doing? They're like, how much money do you have? And I'd be like, $200. And they'd be like, credit cards? I'd be like, don't have those. And so it was just all these, I was giving all the honest answers, but they were wrong. And the Greyhound guy was like, okay, we got to leave. Can he come? And the customs guy was like, no. He was like, we got to talk to him. So they held me at customs and they had to call the organizers of the festival to verify that I was coming there, that I had a place to stay, that I was not getting paid and all this shit. So then when I got on the next bus, it was like 2-3 hours later.
Wow.
But when I got to the festival, people knew that had happened to me. So then I was the guy. The other thing is when you're going, you give customs your name. Like, so there was some record that you were crossing, and this was a true story, I guess. But they did that at like the airports, but not at the Greyhound station. So when I got there, a lot of people knew, like, oh, this is the guy that took the bus, which is just like not a good fighting position.
Oh.
And then I was just broke and hungry, like literally hungry, and like finding free shit to eat at the like little events. And, you know, my sets weren't good because I was like, we didn't get like the regular New Faces got like warm up sets,
right?
And all like expense accounts with their management, and I'm over here like, ugh, like I just like came back from the bus station. I had like no warm up spots. I didn't know enough people to, you know, it was one of those things where I'm like, I didn't get it too soon as a comic, but I got it too soon as a New York comic because I would have been more comfortable with my own skin.
Yeah.
And around industry. I'd never been around like agents and managers and TV, but I didn't know how any of that shit worked. I was just kind of like sitting there like Ryan Hamilton. Do you know Ryan Hamilton?
I do know Ryan Hamilton, yeah.
He was there doing like gala shows, and he's a friend of mine, and he was like so cool to be like.
Is he Canadian?
No, he's Mormon.
Oh, okay. Similar vibe. Similar vibe. That is, yeah. That is.
But he like was just kind of like, if you see me, you can come like hang with me, and you don't have to feel weird or. Yeah. And I was like, oh man, God bless you. Like, you know, stuff like that. So it was just like, it was like incredibly stressful and weird and not a good position to be in. But, you know.
Wow, that's a crazy story. I had Sam Evans on here, and he had like also had like a not great experience.
And Casey James Salango, have you heard of his story?
I haven't heard his. He's somebody that I've talked to him about having him on, and he's agreed to it, but we haven't set up a date.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to hear his. Yeah, because it's and with Sam it also sounded like, I think for him he was too. I think he probably got it sooner than he.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't realize they didn't pay you at all. Wow.
No, that might have changed. I was literally the first year
that they did Unwrapped. I think that might have changed because I saw it. I don't know anyone that. I mean, I know people that got it this year, but no one like well enough to where like I would like talk to them about it.
Yeah.
You know, unless like I had them on. But that it seemed like this year they just had like it was all one thing. That they still had Unwrapped and Wrapped, but they like merged them together.
Yeah, I don't think it's a separate show anymore.
Which is probably how it should be. Like, I feel like the audience shouldn't know. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, why do we need to know who's repped and who's unwrapped?
It also became a weird thing of like, then you're putting, because the idea is you have this unrepped show, so agents and managers and people show up to the unrepped show to look for new talent. They're not going to go to the repped show and watch somebody else's client.
Yeah.
So there were, like I remember I drew first to go up first on the first show that we had. And then I did my set, and then I'm walking out, and there was like a huge group of people waiting to get in, and they were late. And it was a bunch of agents and managers that had like left another show that they wanted to see and late and came to this one. So they like didn't even see the first two comics.
This whole thing, this is like all like, it's like every single worst case scenario happened to you for that. Like you were so set up to fail.
Yeah. And to add to that, the second show, I drew first again.
Oh my God.
And here's, I spoke up about it, and I was like, no. I'm like, we're drawing again. I'm not going first again.
Yeah.
I told him what happened last time. I'm like, please. And Chris Laker was like, swap, I'll go first. And he like took the bullet so that I could go on a later spot. They tried to be like, no, that's how the numbers got drawn. And I'm just like, fuck you.
So what was it? It was like literally like your name's in a hat or
Yeah. Which is a fair way to do it.
Yeah.
But also like, come on.
Yeah. So it's just two shows.
It was
and
only
you're
two
doing
shows.
5 minutes, 7 minutes. What is it?
Yeah, I think 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. Yeah,
it's funny though, because my audition set for Montreal is on YouTube, and it's one of my most watched clips.
And where was that?
The Creek in the Cave.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. You moved here at the beginning of the Creek in the Cave. I moved here at the end of the Creek in the Cave.
Yeah.
2019.
I was like late beginning.
Yeah.
I guess that it had a little bit more of a life before I showed up, but yeah.
I remember seeing Stav at the Creek in the Cave once. He wasn't. I think that they were doing JFL auditions upstairs.
Yeah.
And the open mic downstairs. So I was there for the open mic, and I think it was like he was like waiting to go up at the auditions and like came down to like watch one of his friends' sets at the mic and then like went back upstairs. But then it is funny. You see stuff like that where I'm like, I know that he didn't get it because he never did it.
Yeah.
And now he's like more famous than most people.
Anybody who's done
it. Yeah.
Besides Lil Rel.
Yeah. That's and Lil Rel, was he here? He was here in New York?
No, he was in LA or
in
Chicago.
Yeah, he's from he is from Chicago.
There was another Chicago guy named Dan Telfer that did it.
I think I've heard of that. Heard of that guy. Yeah. So when you were like first getting into comedy, who were like the people that you looked up to the most? That were like, who were your favorite comics early on?
Gaffigan was a big one. Dave Attell. I liked Maria Bamford a lot. Patton Oswalt. That was another thing, was the comedians of comedy stuff was big. Zach Galifianakis. Like those were the people that were like in my formative years. And David Cross too. Bob Odenkirk. Mr. Show.
Oh, yeah.
I liked a lot of like sketchier stuff. I liked a lot of the alt comic stuff, but I didn't have, you have a lot more access to more clubby stuff, and it is an easier world to like kind of dive into. So I never went, I never took like UCB classes, or I never had a sketch group. I did like a Weezer tribute band thing and we did like a web series, but that was the closest I got to sketch. But yeah.
So why aren't you more famous?
I don't know, man. I think it's this lack of charisma. It's like I also realize I don't like if I do like a run of shows, like if I do a lot of I haven't done like a lot of back-to-back weeks on the road in a while, but when I do a lot of dates back-to-back or a lot of shows, I'll have like a couple days where I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah. And
I feel like for some people that's not the case. So I'll take time off if I feel like taking time off. And that can, put you in a weird spot. Also, who knows really? It's like all kinds of weird shit that happens. I did an audition for the Comedy Central's Adam Devine's house party.
Yeah.
And I had I don't want to brag. I had the set of the night kind of thing. Like, went to a premiere thing for Broad City like a couple days later, and the people from Comedy Central come up to me like, "Hey, heard about your set?" And I'm like, "Yeah, cool. All right, here we go. I got this. I got this in the bag." And then they announced like a week later that the show was ending, and so nobody. So it was it's little things like that where you're like, you never know. Like, not that that would have been some big break,
Yeah.
but it's like there's shit like that where it's like you have no control over that. You could have been next in line for something that you could have been next in line to do Montreal the year that it went away. You could, little things like that just kind of like put you in the right position along your path. But ultimately, like, I don't want to stop doing comedy. So
Yeah, I think I remember hearing somebody else on a podcast talking about that specific to Adam Devine's house. I know Matthew Broussard was there. Who else was there?
That did it?
Yeah, that was like audition.
Like 2 or 3 seasons, but
no, that was like doing like when you did, that was like supposed to be on it, and then it got canceled immediately.
Yeah, I really don't remember.
Because I do remember somebody having like a similar story about that and being like so excited for it, and then
yeah.
But it's funny. I mean, because this is obviously like outside looking in. The position you're in right now, you seem a lot happier than a lot of people that maybe are more famous.
Well, I also have gained that experience of meeting a lot of famous people and seeing friends get success and having it like where you talk to them and they're still like, man, this sucks. I don't even know. I don't know where I'm going to go or what's going to happen. And this is like, oh, this never fucking ends.
Yeah.
And you're like, you kind of have a choice to like keep things like that. You should pursue things the way you want to pursue them, but also does it come at a detriment to your mental health or your overall happiness or how much you actually get to enjoy the one life you have? And I kind of was like, you know what? If this is the way it goes and I have enough pull to put together a set for a special and then fill a room and film it, then I'm fine and people can watch it. And it sucks that I wasn't on late night or Comedy Central, when I wanted to be. But ultimately, like, I don't, I'm not miserable. I still like doing it. I still like seeing young people do it. I still like running into my friends that do it. And, it could be a lot worse.
Yeah, definitely. And you got a wife and a dog.
Yeah,
and a cat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I met my wife doing comedy. She's a manager.
Is she your manager?
She's my manager. Yeah. She was an assistant manager at the time. Or no, she might have even been an intern. I don't remember. But yeah, it's like I'm doing this thing and I wanted to see where it took my life. So this is where it's taken my life, and it's still pretty good. Ultimately.
Yeah. So what's it like having your wife as a manager?
It's good and bad. It's like all the things you'd think are good, and all the things you think are frustrating. But ultimately, it's having somebody in your corner that knows you really well, that you can communicate with, and that's what you need in a manager.
Yeah.
So I can't think of a better fit. I know there's a lot of people that like to blame their managers for things. I can't really do that. But I'm also, that's not my personality. I'm a little more like,
well, happy manager, happy life. That's what they say.
Got that. That's what it says. I stenciled that on my wall in script letters.
Is it working together and living together? Like, does it ever get like hard to like feel like you gotta like separate the two?
Yeah, we had like when I was a little more busy, and she was more busy, like we had to do a lot of like boundary setting, can't talk about work when we're like just chilling at home watching TV. Set a weekly appointment. Like, she'd set a weekly appointment with me like every other client. And that's when we hash out work stuff. And then, so that we wouldn't talk about it. And when I say we, I mean I wouldn't bitch about
Yeah.
not being successful when we were sitting at dinner and making her feel like I'm blaming her, but I'm not. I'm just like venting, you know? So like little stuff like that where you're like, oh, this is a second thing to navigate. But in the end, I'd rather have somebody who I know gives a shit than, you know, a manager who's like got me on a roster full of, you know, 45 other people and is just kind of waiting for me to do something on my own anyway.
Has there? I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. Is there ever a time where you like? Do you ever like feel like competitive with her other clients?
I used to when there were more stand-ups, but for the most part, she makes it a point. Well, now she makes it a bigger point to like she's only repping like one kind of other talent. Basically, she has a smaller roster now because she's independent. So it's like I'm the only like white guy stand-up comedian.
Mm-hmm.
There's two or three other stand-ups she works with, but you know they're not swimming in the same pool as me. And then she has like writers and directors and things. So it's like we're not up for the same things. So it doesn't matter. I'm not like, you know.
Yeah.
But that's by design at this point.
Yeah. All right. So we got to wrap up in a minute, but I like to ask, is there anything you've been like watching, listening to, reading that you like enjoy and want to recommend to people? I guess I feel like I should start asking people this beforehand so they can like come with it, but
no, that's all right. I mean, I'm watching the new King of the Hill, which I've enjoyed, the reboot, Peacemaker, and then we've just been watching some pretty heavy true crime stuff on Netflix. But yeah, Peacemaker's been pretty good. I like Peacemaker.
yeah,
You know Peacemaker.
I do. Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I liked the new Superman movie a lot.
Haven't seen that.
Ooh, it's good. You know, it's also James Gunn.
Yeah.
All right, Jim Tews, everybody.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks for
We're
doing
gonna get famous both of us at the same time.
for this episode.